Alright, so let's get started. For the purpose of this video, I had already done my eyes, which I actually usually do my eyes first anyway, and my foundation is done. So first step is going to be actually brows, foundation, eyes, if I'm not doing anything like dark or really colorful or glittery or anything like that, that I want to maybe just start with a clean face. But for most of the time, I do my eyes first. Leaving usually like the bottom lash line until after I do my concealer and other things like that. So for highlighting, you can, it's pretty much a rule of thumb, to use a concealer or highlighter that is 1 to 2 to even 3 shades lighter than your skin tone. So I'm going to use the Radiant Creamy Concealer in Ginger, which is about 3 steps lighter. For everyday use, I use Biscuit. So, one of the main reasons why I like this one is the applicator is a doe foot, so I can apply it a lot easier. I use my finger. You can use a brush. For me, the finger is warmer and warms up the product, and it helps it move a little faster and smoother. But it's your personal preference. So, the first thing I'm going to do is put this under my eye, kind of like a triangle, and focus where my bags typically are, which are right here in darkness. And then my forehead, you want to put a little there, down the nose. And then you can also put a little on your cheek, your chin. This one dries a little faster, so you kind of got to work quickly. Using your finger, you can just pat this in. So almost immediately you can see that the light's like gone straight to where the lighter areas are. So it's attracting light. I don't have my foundation brush. I left it on the other side of the room. But I would typically go in with my foundation brush and make sure I blend this out really nicely. Make sure that there aren't any harsh lines. But I'm just going to use a clean sponge to make sure that I kind of make sure that this is all nice and blended nicely. Now, that is done, the next step for me is typically to contour. So this is where the Anastasia palette comes into play. There are 3 colors here that you can use to contour. You have Havana, Fawn, and Java. I usually stick with Java. It's a little bit red tone. This one has a little bit of a muted gray, which is really good if you're good at or want to create shadows. So it's a little bit more of an advanced step in my book, but also based on your skin tone, the gray mutedness of this brown may come off a little ashy. And then Havana. Havana's pretty dark. It doesn't probably look as dark on camera, but it comes off on the skin pretty dark. So if you have this palette and you want to get this palette, you can just test which one works best for you. I usually stick with Java, which is the lighter brown. So the brush that I use, this is an angled powder brush. This one I think is just from Crown. I like it because it's a little bit more stiff than another one that I will show you that's an angled powder brush. And you can use really any brush. Angled is just a little bit easier to work with, and like I said, this one's just a little bit more defined, so it gives me a good definition in my contour. Now, contouring, where do you want to contour? You want to contour everywhere you want a shadow, where you want it to look like it is sunken in, which is usually going to be here down your the hollows of your cheek. Usually here too, you may want to kind of frame your face. You can also do it along your jawline if you want to try to really kind of define your jawline. And you can also do it down the bridge of your nose. I usually like to stick with relying on more of the highlight than the contour of the nose. So I'm going to take a little of the Java, put it on my brush, and this is where you make the fishy face. But I've done it so much, I'm pretty good at it now. And usually when I'm doing the contour, I'm going to brush away from my face, not into my face, but away from my face. And to the hairline. Now, I don't like to make my nose look super thin or anything like that, or super, you know, pointy. That's not my preference. So sometimes I will take a little of it on this brush, and usually even if it just has a little product left over, and just hit the sides of my nose, usually right across the bridge, just to define that part and create a little bit of a shadow. You can use a smaller brush and go right along here, but it's just more of a personal preference than anything. So I usually just tap it right there. There we go. So that's the contouring part for me. This is pretty much as far as I go. I don't do a whole lot. Just don't really care for it to try too hard to make it, you know, super defined lines and cuts in the face on myself. So that's how I do it. This is more of the simple one. Now, the next thing that I will do is to set my highlight. And there are 3 powders that are light. So you have vanilla, banana, and sand. Vanilla is a little bit pink. Banana is yellow. For this, for me, and for most of the time, I'm going to pick up the banana. And I use this highlight. This is a tapered highlighter brush from Sigma. Okay. And this is where I will set my highlight, or the contour, or not the contour, but the concealer. So basically everywhere you put the concealer, you can put this highlight powder. This sets it. It also kind of gives it a lot of brightness. This particular powder I love because it has a little bit of a satiny finish as opposed to a matte finish. So I like that. So the next step is to add blush. For this particular video, I'm just using Blazing Hot, which is an extra dimension blush. It's a pretty coral blush color, blush, and a brush. So this one is the MAC 128. It's a 2-sided brush. It's a synthetic side and a natural side. So for this particular one, I'm just going to pick it up and put my blush on the apples of my cheek. So the apple is going to be right above where you put that contour or the darker color. Highlighting, in the true sense of highlighting, you can use a shimmery color like sand to highlight certain areas of your face that you want to attract any more light, and you get that glow. So this one is called Sand, and it has a little bit of shimmer to it. So I'm going to pick a little bit of that up, and I'm going to put that right along my cheek, the top of my cheekbones, down my nose a little bit too. You can do it right over the Cupid's bow. And that's pretty much where I would put a little highlight, and that'll really catch that light and really give you that glow that you see. So this is how I highlight and contour. I like to keep it really natural, really simple, keep it as easy as possible, and that's why I really love this Anastasia palette. It's really great. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but this is just pretty much how I do it. I think it's really simple. It doesn't take a whole lot of steps, but yeah. So now that I've shown you how to get this, let's talk about this particular palette. So the contour kit is a really nice, easy palette to carry. It's small, it's slim. It does come in like this cardboard packaging, so it's not really anything extensive. These do pop out, so if you have other palettes that have magnetic bottoms, you can put them in there. I'd already been using the banana powder anyway under my eye, so I really like this. Why do I like this one a little bit better than the banana powder? Even though the banana powder has not failed me, I love it to death. I still recommend it. I like this one because, like I said, it has a bit of a sheen to it. It has just a bit of a satiny finish that just really, really looks glowy under the eye and glowy on the face. Now, if you're going for an all matte look, very retro, you might not want that. So you can use something like a banana powder, which the Nye Banana Powder is a little bit more matte. But this particular palette, because it's been sold out, it's so hard, but Sephora now carries it. I don't know if it's in store, but they do have it online. You can always sign up to be notified when they get it back in stock. I have no idea when Anastasia's website's going to have it back in stock, and because I had been looking for it, and I actually had a friend who had an extra one, which is really crazy because I'd been looking for it and just hadn't had a chance to get to it. So, yeah, luckily she bought two, so I was able to get the other one. So I also want to talk a little bit about tools. I wanted to show you another brush. This one is by Sonia Kashuk. It's a little bit fluffier, but it is angled. I really like this one as well when everyday contouring because it covers a little bit more of an area. But I also like it for, you know, bronzing the skin because I can, again, it picks up a little bit more product, has a little bit more space to work with. It's just a little bit more fluffier. But this is my kind of standard go-to one, which is the angled powder brush that is from Crown Brushes, I believe. The highlighting, tapered highlighting brush, I use this for the highlighting under the eye. You can also put a little highlight here if you want to really define that contour. You can also put concealer here, and then you can put that, you know, on top of it. So quickly, I also wanted to show you other products in my stash that I use for highlighting and contouring and things like that. So you've seen the Radiant NARS concealer. I also use the Pro Longwear concealer from MAC. That is if I'm going, especially if I'm like going out and know I'm going to be out for a while and I really want it to stay, I use that one. For like highlighting, true highlighting, and not necessarily concealing, there's two products that you can use. I did pick up the Yves Saint Laurent Touche Éclat, whatever. I ain't fancy like that. Radiant Touch. And this one is in a 5. And so for this one, because it's a little bit lighter, it's not very pigmented, I can, even after I conceal, I will come back and put a little of that right here in this area to get that highlight and light, because it gives you a nice sheen of light. And then MAC has a Prep and Prime highlighter, and this one's in Bright Forecast that does the same, and it's a little bit more of a peachy tone. Looks kind of yellow on camera, but this one's a little bit more peach toned. So that's what I use for like highlighting. And I forgot the other concealer that I use all the time is this is the Pro Concealer palette, but it uses the Studio Finish concealers. So I have those. I have some of those in the single packaging, and then I have this one as well. That's a palette that's easier for me to carry. It has a ton of colors all in one. So I used basically only two products now to set my highlighter, my concealer, and that's going to be the Nye Banana Powder. Again, we've just talked about that one, and then the Banana in the Beverly Hills palette. For contouring, depending on the look, of course, is where I will choose how I want to contour, but you can always use bronzers. This particular bronzer is Refined Golden from MAC, and this one has a little bit of shimmer to it, so especially if I'm going for glowy looks or just an everyday, because this one isn't very it's not as harsh. So again, like especially with this fluffy brush, it's really good because then I'm not creating a harsh line as much as I'm just warming up the skin, which is always helpful after you put your foundation on, because the reason why we want to do the highlighting and contouring as well as after we put our foundation on, we remove the dimensions in our face, so you kind of need to bring that back. I also use this one, which is Casino from NARS, and Blunt by MAC. Blunt was my #1 go-to contour all the time. And so I usually bounce between that one and Refined Golden. And now that I have the Anastasia palette, I'm all about the Java as well. So I'm definitely hitting up the Java a whole lot. And I love the fact that this is in an all-in-one encompassing palette, and it's slim and I can take it to places. So that's pretty much it as far as how my highlighting, contour, and the products that I use and tools that I use. my one last part of this video is more of a PSA, and it's a bit of a more of a caution. A lot of people love this high definition powder. I loved it when I first got it. It's beautiful. It's great. It leaves your skin all nice and porcelain, you know, fine and everything. However, this has a component called silica, which is for high definition cameras and television, things like that. It is not great for flash. So if you use this, you have to be extremely careful. And there's other products that have the silica in it as well, but the silica basically bounces off light. So that you see, though, we've seen all the makeup mistakes and of all the actresses that goes to the red carpet, and once that flash hits, and if it's not blended out, because to the naked eye you can't see it, but when that flash hits it, you see it, and a lot of times it's blotchy and things like that. So I learned that lesson the hard way. So I definitely would not recommend this if you're going to be taking flash photography, going out. This is not, you know, what you want to do, especially like an iPhone flash. She's gonna make it even worse. But professional flash is gonna not look so great either. So you just have to be careful with this particular product. It's a great product if you're not planning on taking pictures or if you're not doing flash photography. It is great. It makes your skin look so fine and just soft and beautiful and all that, but you just got to be a little careful. So I just wanted to say that. I know a lot of people love it and they wonder why is that actress has that white stuff here and under, you know, her nose. It's not Coke. Well, I can't say it's always not Coke, but most of the time that's what it is. It's that high definition powder, setting powder. So you have to be a little careful with that and just make sure the product doesn't have silica in it if you're going to be taking flash photography. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video.